Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to War in the Pacific, Admirals Edition, my Let's Play series against Lieutenant Rainbow Slash. It is April 2nd of 1942, where we're picking things up, and we're in the midst of trying to evacuate some of our refugees from Port Moresby via air back to Australia. We're also in the midst of the Japanese landings in Java. They're a little bit behind, it feels like there, but they have successfully landed on Java and gotten their units ashore. Last turn, I want to say we destroyed an enemy cargo ship as well as damaging a enemy tanker, but we've got a bunch of subs in the Java Sea that the Japanese are obviously trying to depth charge here. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. You can see here the British submarine Truant just took a couple of depth charge hits. We've got the U.S. submarine Trigger here off the west coast of Japan getting picked up by Japanese submarines, anti-submarines that is. And we've got the SS-23 near Canton Island, getting some visuals here on some Japanese destroyers in that vicinity. What do you mean by that, Southern? I think I'm one recording behind on YouTube. With that being said, so let's see. It looks like that's the night operation phase. The Japanese are going to bombard here on the eastern coast of Batavia. We did move an armored unit in there trying to see if we can't sneakily destroy 100 Japanese aircraft on the ground, as well as some support units, which I'm assuming are there. We'll see how that attack goes. Also, by the way, we are going to be launching a major attack at Bataan this turn. So not Bataan, sorry, Clark Field. As a reminder, the Japanese only had 2 divisions watching our troops at Bataan, so we launched a counterattack there, drove them back to Clark Field, and our troops are pursuing toward Clark Field. This turn, we've ordered a shock attack there to see if we can't finish the wrecking of 2 Japanese divisions, as well as just throwing all of his Pacific plans into limbo. If we can succeed in counterattack there, maybe pick up some Japanese supplies and see what happens. We're also, I believe we're going to be bombarding Mulman in the Burma theater with 3 British battleships this turn. So it'll be a pretty impactful turn, I'm hoping, for the Allies if things go well. And we do have a pretty strong air cap over the battleships, so if they do launch some torpedo bombers against them, they should have some pretty strong air cover to swat those Japanese attacks down. This is the best game. I like it a lot because you can play for hours and still forget to check everything you need to, like miss moving a few tanker ships north. Yeah, Rainer, this is... So if War in the East looks at the Eastern Front in an I go, you go fashion, War in the Pacific is a one day per turn, and everything's resolved simultaneously, which I like, but that also means this game takes forever to play, especially when you're playing a human opponent, and when everything's represented down to like the individual squadron level, it is a very unique game. Meanwhile, you can see some Japanese Oscars are sweeping over Batavia. We have some Warhawks and Hurricanes of the Dutch Air Force rising to try and contest that sweep. You can see we're heavily outnumbered here, so we shot down a couple of Oscars last turn. Looks like at least 6 of them turned back, although it looks like we lost 2 aircraft to their none. We'll have to take a look at what the intel screen shows. Meanwhile, you can see 24 Japanese Nels and 2 Bettys coming in. Unfortunately, they swept our cap aside, so we likely won't do much, if any, damage to these Japanese bombers here. Which would have been nice, right? If we had 7 or 8 Hurricanes and an unescorted bomber force, we might have been able to do a bit of damage. As it looks, they're just going to get in largely unscathed. It does look like we damaged at least 10 of them with flak, but they bombed the airfield and did some damage there. It doesn't look like they destroyed any aircraft on the ground. Meanwhile, apparently these 9 bombers withdrew, or at least one of the bombing attacks withdrew due to no fighter escort, but then the other 9 got through. That was weird. 8 Nels coming in as well, so he's hitting Batavia hard. That's where the bulk of our Dutch East Indies Air Force is located. Meanwhile, he's got some Vals going after our troops over here. We damaged and destroyed some via flak. He's got some Sonias going after our troops at Clark Field as well. He's doing everything he can to reduce the effectiveness of our attackers, both in the Dutch East Indies and in the Philippines. Major, yeah, the game is still like 70 or 80 bucks. I mean, all the 2x3 games are. These are very unique games that are kind of one-of-a-kind games, and so they price them in that way. But what I will say is that typically around the holidays they go on sale for especially War in the Pacific goes on sale for like a massive discount. War in the Pacific was available at 80% off for the holidays last year. So it was like $15. Meanwhile, you can see here the Japanese did launch some Bettys out of what I'm assuming is Bangkok against our battleships that are going for Mulmun. You can see 6 of them came in unescorted and were attacking with over 40 fighters swinging in on 6 unescorted bombers. That's a pretty damn good escort. Looks like we wiped out the entire force. Either 4 of them were destroyed, but the rest must have turned back. So those Japanese Bettys didn't live to fight another day. Oh, and there's another attack coming in and they're unescorted as well. And we definitely didn't use all our ammo up. So we're basically going to wreck a Japanese bomber squadron, a naval bomber squadron here of Bettys. So that's going to be nice. I think I'm playing with a kamikaze bomb. Oh, God, I forget the name of the mod, Oxlorn. It mods mostly just the aesthetics. I'd have to take a look at it, but I think it's... Is it like... goodness, I don't know. I got it from XTRG, who referenced it to me when we started this series. And everybody always asks, and I never have a good answer for them. If anybody knows, throw a link in the chat. Otherwise, I'll look at that after the turn replay's done. All right, so you can see we wiped out that entire Betty formation as well. So at least 12 enemy bombers attempted to attack us at Mulmun, which is probably at least half a squadron. So we just wrecked an entire squadron of Japanese Bettys there. Meanwhile, they're continuing to bomb us at Ambon. More bombing going on in Sumatra. Yeah, I don't think, based on our intel, Southern, we only had them having like 20 bombers located at Bangkok. So until he relocates his naval bomber forces, the ones that are really the dangerous ones, the Bettys and Nells that can carry torpedoes, unless he pulls some of those out of the Dutch East Indies, which will probably take about a day at least, he won't be able to replace those losses in a day. So I think our battleships should be safe to withdraw. The map is the Yamato Damashi Sunny Day by ChemKid. The interface is by Jace. Thank you, YGBSM. I'm pretty sure the map is based off like open source mapping though, because I've got a map behind me that's like almost identical that Charcoal made for me. I've got like a 5-foot wide map on my wall. That's like if I was ever to like do a cam and have you guys like see me, that's one reason I'd be like, I don't know if I want to do a blue screen or a green screen, because like it'd be cool to have that behind me. And it's just of the Indo-Pacific, by the way. Charcoal made that map just specifically. He might have been making it for another reason, but he had that map specifically covering this particular theater of operations, so it's perfect for War in the Pacific. I even got like dry erase markers so I can sort of write on it and plan things out if I want to, although I've been a little bit lazy in that regards. Meanwhile, we've got a couple of Dutch bombers here. Looks like they're flying out of Surabaya to go after the Japanese army here near Batavia. I don't know if Finnish made the map. He used open source software, but he did make some of the text on the map. Meanwhile, we've got some Mitchells and DB7s going in. Also against the Japanese troops here flying out of Batavia, but the Japanese have a cap of Oscars and zeros up. So it looks like they all made it through though to drop their payloads. It doesn't look like they did any damage on the troops though, but you know, maybe they'll keep their heads down, slow them down, make them scared. I don't know. Oh yeah, I forgot. Also, in addition to my battleship bombardment, I ordered 40 B-17s and 30 Blenheim 4s to attack the Japanese infantry at Mulmun. So you can see here 5 fortresses and 15 Warhawks providing cover, as well as 15 Blenheims dropping their payloads here on some Japanese forces here. Didn't do a lot of damage, just 1 squad disabled, 4 Blenheims bombing from 10,000, 3 from 10,000, and 5 B-17s from 10,000. Meanwhile, 9 more Blenheims coming in. Doesn't look like the Japanese have any air cover here, so they're coming in without any cap. Unfortunately, they are bombing through moderate range, so that will influence their accuracy here. Another raid or a sweep operation coming out of Rangoon to clear any enemy fighters, but there were none. 10 fortresses, actually 13 fortresses coming in here. I don't know why it shows for Rangoon. They're all coming from Mandalay. I don't have any fortresses at Rangoon. No damage? Come on, guys. But it looks like they're just bombing Royal Thai Army units. So the 1st RTA C Division, 2nd RTA B Division, 2nd RTA A Division, 4th RTA. So he's got his divisions broken up to make them appear like they're more troops than they are. But our attacks came in incredibly fragmented and scattered. Meanwhile, some Nels hitting our troops at Port Moresby. Oxlorn, you could look at my series unless you're joking. Something sank. Temporary flotation failure on something, it sounded like. Maybe it was a Japanese submarine. I don't know. Oh, a tutorial series? No, Oxlorn, I don't. That's the biggest reason that I think a lot of people don't give this game a look, is that first turn is a bit epic. There is a spreadsheet that gives you some directions on like what you should do with all your units on turn 1. If you want the Japanese playthrough, check out XTRG's beginning of this series if you want to watch 8 hours of setup. But once you get past the first turn, to be honest, it's not as bad. All right, so our battleships here, the Resolution is coming in for a bombardment. I think we've got 3 battleships in this task force. I also ordered the escorts to go ahead and bombard as well. Ramillies, Revenge, R-class battleships, as well as destroyers dropping their payload in and on them as well. 428 Japanese casualties caused, 6 combat squads disabled, 13 non-combatant squads destroyed, 40 disabled, 3 engineers disabled, 3 guns lost or disabled. Manpower hits 6, fires 173, airbase hits 21, airbase supply hits 12, so that'll impact their supply, which is nice. 81 runway hits, so the airfield will probably be shut down for a little while, although they don't have any aircraft there. Port hits 12, port fuel hits 11, and port supply hits 7. So we did a fair bit of damage to their supply. Meanwhile, Japanese heavy cruisers are bombarding our troops here on this island in the eastern part of Java. They're also landing troops over the beach here. We have some troops that I think I was trying to pull some troops out with some air transport back to Batavia. Okay. So we're moving into the land operation phase now. We're almost to the end of the turn. Japanese deliberate attack against the 76th Corps to the east of Cyan here. You can see they've got a shit ton of armored units. Look at all those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 10. There's more than 14 tank regiments up here. He's just got like his entire tank force located in northeastern China. Those guys can move fast too, so they're pretty devastating there. They're gonna drive these guys back for sure. Did they lose anything? 3-1 odds for the attacker. They lose 41 vehicles, 1 of them destroyed. How many vehicles did they have all told? 1,500? Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm sure that's like all of their armor in China. The problem is they're gonna potentially be cutting off Cyan, which is a problem. Got to get those troops south of Cyan back to the north, so they can't. But I don't even know if our armored forces in that area can hold against a Japanese armored attack like that. Some fighting in southern China against troops of ours that have like no supply left. Deliberate attack in Ambon again. They didn't manage to even get 1-1, so the forts stay at 0. They don't force anyone to surrender. We destroy a squad. Attack at Pamuksan. Japanese capture the base and the Berezin battalion surrender. So that's about 2,000 Allied prisoners of war. Allied shock attack here at Clark Field, boys. Here it comes. Here it comes. All right, so it looks like it's the 33rd Infantry Division and the 16th Infantry Division. They must have repaired themselves from the damage they had, though, because they were down to like in the 200s of assault value at the end of the last attack. We're doing a shock attack here, which means you get a bigger sort of variety in your dice roll in terms of how well your units attack, which means there's a much greater variance in how well the attack goes. We're attacking with about 1,400. They're defending, I think, with about just shy of 700. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through here. You can see their AV drops a bit, but they did hold. 1 to 2 odds. Fort level's 3. Ugh. So that fort level is why we didn't take it. You can see here they had 650 versus 1400, but when you adjust for the fort level here, it was almost 1 to 1. Not quite 1 to 1. 1 to 1 would have been awesome, because if we had managed 1 to 1, this fort level would have dropped, and we would have almost certainly been able to slowly reduce the enemy force here. Unfortunately, because we didn't get 1 to 1, we took much heavier losses than they did. They lost 2 squads destroyed, 64 disabled, for a total knocked out of the fight of 66. We lost 79 disabled, 462, or sorry, 79 destroyed, 462 disabled. And so as a result, we didn't reduce the forts, so they keep the same bonuses as they did in the next fight. And we also lost more than they did, so we will be weaker relative to them than they were in the last fight. We did manage to destroy 9 guns, which is, I guess, some consolation. And we apparently did destroy their armored, their artillery unit there. So I think they had a mortar unit and 2 infantry divisions, and I think the mortar division got destroyed. The mortar battalion got destroyed, so it's just the 33rd and 116th, or the 16th. Overall, though, that's a little bit disappointing. We did a little bit of damage to them, but at the end of the day, they're going to hold. Meanwhile, we did attack here at Kalajidi. It looks like they did have some assault value defending, so that armored unit didn't manage to do anything. Oh, our supply is just a nightmare in the Philippines Southern. It was a last gasp. It was a gamble to try and accomplish something before that entire force gets destroyed. But I mean, all those troops are going to die anyway. So I was trying to do as much damage as I could before they all die, because they're cut off. If he tries to push us back out Southern, I don't know that he'll succeed, to be honest. I think we'll just switch over to the defensive and hope that he attacks, because I think we have enough supply left to effectively defend at least against 1 enemy attack, and with the jungle terrain, we should get some nice bonuses there. We have more assault value than him, and so I think if he does attack, we'll do okay. All right, so our Hornet is being upgraded or refitted. Meanwhile, we've got a bunch of heavy cruisers, light cruisers, destroyers, and whatnot that are entering refit in Pearl Harbor as well. They've hit their April refits for 42, so we'll get a much more effective fighting force for some of those units in Pearl and whatnot. Beginning refit at Pearl Harbor. Whole bunch of DMSs also. All right, let's fast forward through that. Oh, close the game. All right, I guess I got to open that back up. I don't like how that happens. If you hit X at the wrong point in the end turn phase, it's just like, nope, we're closing the game. Screw you for trying to rush us. Captain Kilita, yes, this is play by email. By the way, apparently I didn't change the stream title. My bad. This is obviously War in the Pacific, not War in the East. I am playing as the Allies. Thanks, Co. I didn't know that. By the way, thanks for the follow, Captain Kilgotia and Call Me Doge 1997. Maybe Dodge, but yeah, the shipyard's definitely going to be overwhelmed because we have a couple of battleships there too. So ideally, if we go to the show ships under repair, you can see all these ships that are currently refitting. Well, we've got 2 battleships, the Tennessee and California, that are repairing there and are going to be there almost a year. A bunch of these ships here at the 20-plus day marks, however, are just refitting. So can we move? We can't. So our shipyard is using twice the capacity that it has available to it. So this is going to make everything happen much more slowly on some of these other ships that are repairing, because I don't have the ability to switch these guys out of ship. Oh, I can. It doesn't, I don't think it changes the pier side, but it will impact the ships that actually need to repair. Cool. So I'm not going to do this on stream, but we'll go ahead and do that on after we get out of the stream. I won't make you guys watch all that. Anyway, guys, so you can see a bunch of those ships are in the middle of refits at Pearl. Not a lot going on around Australia at the moment. We did try and pull some elements of the Port Moresby Brigade, so there are still a few troops left there, about 88 load cost. 8 CMF infantry sections that are all disabled that we're trying to pull out to Cairns, I think it is. You can see we've gotten over 760 load cost out, as well as 10 infantry sections and some support and mortars and other units like that. We also did start pulling back the 45th Indian Brigade. So we got 57 of them out to Cairns. We actually got another a larger group out to Townsville. I repurposed some PBYs to get them out. So we got about 116 stack value out of them, a couple of infantry sections of these Indian troops that were located at Port Moresby. And you can see here, if we take a look at the troops north of Port Moresby, the 45th is the one that I'm trying to pull out. The Port Moresby, I'd like to get those 8 infantry sections out. I'd also like to get the 45th out with its 70 plus infantry sections here, so we can use them somewhere else. That would be nice. But it's going to take a while using like float planes and stuff like that to get them out. Meanwhile, we have pulled out the bulk of the Gull Battalion here. There's 387 load cost left, but there are three. The bulk of that is 3 25-pound guns, which you can't transport via aircraft anyway. The rest of that formation is located at Batavia with its 30-plus CMF infantry sections, Australian infantry sections here. And you can see Batavia is currently up to 1,019 assault strength here for the troops located at this particular target. We did try and train and get some of these regiments experience up a little bit, but it's still a little bit low. They're at 1,019. The fort at Batavia is at level 3. We're trying to get it up to level 4. We are 90% of the way there. It'll take 10 more days to get there. The Japanese may arrive first. You can see they have troops at Kilajiti, although we know they don't have many combat troops there. They do have, I think, a division located at Bandabong, which they will likely run into the mobile battalion here that was driven back from Tajiti, which has no combat value, but may at least slow the Japanese down. So even if they arrive here, then they'll have to fight for a turn, and then they'll have to march. So I think we've got 5 to 6 days before they show up here, which will probably be 3 to 4 days too little, but we'll see. Meanwhile, in the Burma theater here, you can see these 3 battleships as well as light cruisers and destroyers bombarded and used up almost all of their 15-inch ammo and a good chunk of their 6-inch ammo and all of that. They did bombard these Japanese troops here. They didn't have enough firepower to do a lot of damage, but you can see our intel says there's 41,000 troops with 166 guns and 13 AFVs. So I'm guessing this is the Royal Thai Infantry Army largely, which would be interesting to see if we could counterattack and try and drive them back. The airfield was absolutely lit up. 92 airfield damage, 61 port damage. Battleships did their job there. Meanwhile, we are continuing to unload more elements of the 6th Australian Infantry Division here at Rangoon, or sorry, 7th Australian Infantry Division here at Rangoon. The bulk of it's unloaded, but there's some support elements that are still coming ashore. Port Blair, meanwhile, has received reinforcements in terms of additional supplies, so the troops here are not low on supply anymore, although they're a little bit weak. And one thing that I think is worth calling out in this particular turn is we got an intel report that the Japanese have an engineer regiment, actually 2 different engineer regiments that are on board different transports on their way to Port Blair. So that does suggest the Japanese have a surface action task force that is moving to Port Blair, and they've already loaded troops up on it. Last we saw of those particular engineer units, they were located at Singapore, so that means that's not very far of a journey. We have set up some recon here to look south. I'm hoping that they're not a turn or so away, but they might not be too far. It could be 2 or 3 turns away. The battleships over here exhausted the bulk of their ammo, so I don't know what we can defend Port Blair with. I can't imagine after what he just saw with the air power over Mulman that he would send anything less than a carrier task force to support that invasion of Burma. I'm not quite sure, but we'll see. I probably won't continue the bombing of Mulman, by the way, because we did see that attack was ineffective. But you also see we took a lot of sort of operational damage. These aircraft are going to be down for a while. Looks like 12 B-17s down with operational mechanical issues because they're flying out of Mandalay, which is not a very built-up airbase yet. And so they were even flying at extended range, even though they weren't at extended range. I'm not sure that we can hit anywhere else that matters from Mandalay, at least not unless we make the airfield bigger. So we'll have to see. Anyway, though, Port Blair is my main concern right now. It does sound like the Japanese are going to be sending an invasion task force to Port Blair. And if they do send carriers, I don't know that I can stop them. That's kind of concerning. I did send one carrier out to try and shield the battleships, but it is just the Formidable with its 19 basically F4 Wildcats. You know, they're Martlets, but they're the Wildcat. And then 12 torpedo bombers. You know, maybe we could do something if it's an unescorted task force moving to Port Blair, but I'm not confident it will be. Port Blair does have level 2 fortifications right now. It's almost to level 3. It's at 66%. We could try and transfer some troops in there. We could try and send the 1st Gloucestershire Battalion via like air transport. This is actually a pretty decent unit with 36 British infantry sections, but that likely wouldn't hold against anything but a very minor Japanese landing force. We do have our carriers, which could try and race north, but they probably wouldn't arrive in time. We've got 5 fleet carriers south down here, just off the northwest coast of Australia here. They'd probably get to around here at the end of this turn. So they're probably about a week away. Even if we try and march them up to flank speed, they're going to have to put into Sri Lanka to refuel. I don't even think they have fuel to get there on flank speed. We can maybe cut a day or two off via flank, but that's about it. Meanwhile, our attack at Clark Field didn't go well. We've got 1,100 assault value left. It looks like the bulk of our troops still have sufficient supply, although some of our units are a little bit short on supply. Not dramatically so, just slightly. You know, maybe we start pulling back to Bataan. Maybe we hope he attacks me, and maybe the terrain gives us the advantage we need to win a battle. I'm not quite sure, but we'll have to see how that plays out. So that's the stuff there. We did have quite a bit of an air battle over Mulmun. We did shoot down some enemy aircraft. So if we go ahead and here, we're claiming 17 enemy Bettys. I didn't see that many in the battle, but it is claiming 17. There could be some fog of war. This number could be too high. The combat result could have shown fewer aircraft than were actually involved, but we're claiming 70 G4M1 Bettys shot down, 16 in air-to-air combat, 3 Vals lost in flak and operational attacks near Ambon, 3 Warhawks lost at Batavia, 2 of them air-to-air, 1 operational, 3 Hurricanes, 2 air-to-air, 1 operational. I think those Hurricanes were all of the Dutch Air Force. So if we go down to Batavia, we can take a look and see, like, what do we still have left from our fighters? It looks like we've got 9 ready fighters out of 21 total airframes. The Warhawks and Hurricanes are pretty badly beaten up here. The enemy did bomb Batavia itself, but at least our cap prevented a very accurate bombing there. No damage to the airfield or anything like that. We do have those. We didn't really lose any of those Mitchells or DB7s, it didn't look like, via those attacks on enemy shipping. We did lose 1 B-17 as an operational loss. And so that's what we're looking at there. It didn't, by the way, I didn't see any. If we go to ship sunk, nothing was sunk last turn. So if we did hear that flotation failure and you know, a ship sinking, which we did hear a graphic for that, must have been a Japanese ship of some kind. And yeah, so that's the situation now. I know I've kind of been blitzing through this. We did get some troops. I think we got 2 of our British brigades out of the Middle East here. So we've got the 14th British Brigade still coming, or it still needs transports to unload. And we've got some transports on the way, but we did get one of the divisions on the way to Colombo, the 16th British Brigade here with 120 assault value roughly. And then we got the 23rd British Brigade likewise with about 120 assault value. Both of them are on their way. They'll both be on map in 3 days. So they're 3 days out from entering the map. And then, you know, probably 10 days or so, maybe more, to try and get them to Rangoon if we want to try and reinforce Burma. Also, if he does want to do more air attacks against Mulmun or Rangoon or anything like that, we do have some pretty juicy targets here. We've got about 62,020, so about 82,000 supply on these 3 transport task forces, which I'm trying to sneak into Rangoon. But if he's sending his carriers into the Bay of Bengal to go after Port Blair, that's another juicy target that could very easily get destroyed, as well as all of my other shipping in this area, although at least most of it is trying to head its way out. I mean, it's possible he doesn't send his carriers to Port Blair, but after what he just saw, I can't imagine he would think, I need no air cover. And so he could fly air cover out of Bangkok with his long-range fighters, but a range of 12, those zeros are going to be at extremely long range. That seems a little bit dicey. We haven't seen his fleet carriers in a while. I got to imagine maybe he's going to send him up that way, but I'm not really sure. I don't really know what to expect. Akazi hit a mine. Check combat report. Yeah, I did see the combat report when I was looking before we got the turn. We did see that a Japanese destroyer here hit a mine somewhere around here. Just scrolling through the combat reports. I don't know why the mines are like stealth reported. You hear like a boom usually if someone hits a mine. Maybe we sank a destroyer with a mine, but based on I mean it could have been that, I guess. Does a mine usually destroy a destroyer in one hit in this game? In real life, sure, but in this game? I don't even see anything about a mine here, but it's a gigantic file to pull through. I do know in the combat reports that I was looking at, it did mention it. Here. So at WWII, 2 Japanese destroyers were clearing some mines, but the Akazi hit a mine on fire, heavy damage. So kaboom! WWII, where is that anyway? I don't even know where that is. In the Philippines? I don't know. I'm not sure it really matters. In any event, maybe we sink a Japanese destroyer. That would be a great a great victory for us to sink a Japanese destroyer in such a cheap way. They really don't have a ton of destroyers for all the operations they need. Japan is dramatically short on good. They don't have very many good light cruisers, and certainly heavy cruisers. But then destroyers, I feel like they're a little bit short on that as well. So it would have been here actually. Southwest, huh? Does that mean they're still moving down this way, maybe? Be interesting if there was a clash of carriers with enemy shipping here southwest of Java. Not exactly the place I would want the fight to occur, but Japan is short on everything. What don't they have a shortage of? Well, in this game, aircraft. They are able to bump their aircraft production up quite a bit. So you can see here these Japanese armored vehicles may be racing west. They may have even had a pursuit order on, which is definitely possible. 76 Corps, pretty badly shot up, but at least will remain in place as a blocking force. Meanwhile, we've got a whole bunch of troops to the south of Cyan. We need to go ahead and move them north, at least to Cyan, so these troops don't blitzkrieg west and then, north. We're trying to establish a new defensive line up here. I don't know that I have any anti-tank units that would be able to effectively stop that large of a Japanese blitzkrieg. Although I would hope that terrain would slow them down a bit. I don't know how many of my units. Some of these guys do have some anti-tank guns, so it does look like there's some. Not 1,000 of them, though. They've got more tanks than we have anti-tank guns. That might be a problem. So we'll have to see. I did start transferring some troops north. So if you can look down here, we did start transferring some troops, including the 56th anti-tank gun unit here, which has 36 anti-tank guns. They're moving up toward Kalinko, which I think is, where is that? Over here? So we're going to try and get them up north here, but it may not be in time. We'll have to see. But yeah, so China, in the northern portion of China, may be in some danger, some risk, but we do have quite a few troops around here that I'm going to try and concentrate in some mountainous terrain to give the Japanese a bit of a bloody nose. We'll see how that plays out. With that being said, guys, I don't have a lot else to show you this particular turn. I know we've been streaming for almost 3 hours and we've been looking at this for not that long, but this is an eventful turn in that a lot happened, but there's not a lot to show, right? Like we looked at Bataan. That's not great. We lost a lot of troops there. We didn't take it. We bombarded Mulman, didn't do a lot of damage to those guys there, but we did at least manage to, see what he's got there, which I think is pretty much only Royal Thai Army divisions, which maybe is something we could attack. We also shot down a bunch of enemy Bettys, and we uncovered some intel about the enemy maybe making a move toward Port Blair. And that's the situation on April 3rd of 1942 in our play-by-email series. Someone is me. Thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate the support. 3 months in advance. Wow, dude. Thanks. Appreciate it. Did I check on my tanker ships? Yeah, Reener, they escaped, or at least they didn't get bombed again. So I'm pretty sure they're safe now. They're 17 out, which is the maximum range of, I think, the Nels of any enemy bases there. And so I think we're good there. I think we're safe, because before sun comes up, they'll be even further out. If we also take a look at the New Caledonia division, or so the Americal division, they have just about reached New Zealand here, and they'll be about here when the next turn ends. So they're probably less than a week out from either landing in Australia or having us divert them around Australia. Not sure which we'll do. But our tankers made it out there. We got to get them back to the U.S. East Coast. And that's about all I've got for you guys this turn. So not a lot of other intel. We did spot some enemy destroyers, potentially one moving east. Could have been bad intel. Could be some landing force. Maybe he's making a play for Port Blair. We'll have to see if our aircraft can do some naval search and find them. They are ordered to do naval search, but there's not many of them. We spotted an enemy task force at Canton, by the way, with some AMCs moving east, supposedly, but that may just have been moving into the base at Canton. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed yet another look at our War in the Pacific Admirals Edition Let's Play series against Lieutenant Rainbow Slash. We fought a battle at Clark Field, which was a lot closer than I think it looked. A 1-2 odd. We were not very far away from a 1-1 roll, which would have made the entire thing go differently. But unfortunately for us, it didn't. And we're going to have to live with the consequences. With that being said, guys, I hope you did enjoy this episode. A little bit on the shorter end compared to the previous ones, but let me know your thoughts down below as always. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.